Hi, I'm Iris from Iris Impressions Art. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking all about this book, Get Messy Art by Caylee Grey. I'm going to tell you what I think about it, show you through it, and do a project from it. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. There are chapter markers in this video so that you can know where you are, know what's going to happen, and refer back to things if you need to. I'm calling this a book review video, but it's going to be a little bit different than a straight up book review. If you don't have this book, maybe this video is going to entice you to get it, but really this video is aimed at people who already have this book and who kind of want to go along on a journey with me of how I would read a book like this, how I would get inspired by it, and what I would do off of the back of reading it. If you do want to get this book, I'll make sure that there is a link in the description box below if you want to buy it for yourself. But yeah, hopefully if you've got this book already, grab it and we will get into it. So the Get Messy Art book by Caylee Grey. I was very excited for this book to come out. I pre-ordered it months before it came out. I got it back in December and I read it straight away and I was so into it. Let's have a quick little flip and first impressions. So let's see. The thing that immediately stood out to me was this. To the perfectionist who chooses mess instead. This book was written for me, basically. The perfectionist who chooses mess instead. It's like the integral part of my art journey is being a recovering perfectionist. That is what I call myself, so this is perfect. Right, so let's have a look. I really love the fonts, the big headers, and then the text. I really love the way that Caylee writes to us in this book, kind of her tone. Let's see, so it's just, you know, like this book is pretty much like a standard mixed media art instruction book, I would say. It's writing, instructions, photos, supply lists, walkthroughs, that kind of stuff. I would say the structure of this book is slightly different from other ones that I have read. It really reads like a journey, like in this illustration, which is something that I really liked because it really leads you through the book. It also includes sections by guest artists, so that's quite cool to kind of vary it a little bit, and so it's not just Caylee's art and Caylee's type of art instruction, it's also other people, which is cool. Being able to discover those. Nice.
Hello, it's voiceover Iris here. So my first reading session of the book would be just casual, on the couch with a cup of tea, just taking in the book. I might read some bits in detail and skim other parts. The first reading session is usually more of a general inspiration process, the way you'd read any book and absorb it, and sometimes that's totally enough. What I'm showing you here, though, is the second reading, which is more like a learning session. I go through the book in more detail, picking up on the things I liked, writing some notes, things that jumped out at me, things I want to remember. I'm drilling down into what the main themes are, what I want to take away from it, and what I might want to come back to explore. This is kind of like a curation process. I love using the colorful tabs and scribbling notes or my thoughts down. I try to make this whole process just fun rather than a boring homework project. That's also why I then created a page in my Hobonichi planner journal. It's an opportunity for me to get a little bit creative and combine the note-taking with something visual and something that will make you feel inspired and happy when you refer back to it. I decided to recreate the title in a very simple way. I wrote down a quote with a brush pen and then I wrote my notes in bullet point style. As I mentioned later on, I'm writing down my own key takeaways. I'm not trying to give an accurate or complete summary of the book. That would be so boring. Instead, I focus on the bits that are important to me and that I want to remember.
So I'm done with my rereading session note-taking and I feel super inspired and fired up right now, and I just want to talk you through kind of what I was doing there. So whilst I was reading, I was like, okay, I want to make a page in my planner journal where I can kind of keep my notes so that I can kind of refer back to this, which is my own interpretation of the things that jumped out at me. So I recreated like the cover art a little bit, put that really important quote that kind of sums up what this book is about for me, and then I wrote down the things that jumped out at me. So the thing that is really important here is that I go through it and I'm not trying to summarize the book. I am not trying to like be methodical about it. I am picking up on the things that jump out at me, that get me fired up. So that's really my first hot tip, is look at what speaks to you and literally just ignore the rest. We don't have to follow a book to the letter or take it into the letter to get something out of it. We can just pick and choose what we like. So let's have a quick whiz through these tabs that I put here. So first of all, it's that quote, "To the perfectionist who chooses mess instead." It's amazing. Then here we've got do the work. Okay, do the work, super important, and I really connected with that. So that's what I wrote down. What have we got here? Focus on quantity. Actually, this was the thing that I was looking for most when I was rereading it. That's the thing out of the whole book that stayed with me the most. Focus on quantity. It is a much easier way to measure success. Quality will come your way. I promise. Just keep showing up. I feel like that sums up, or it really connected with something in me that I hadn't quite been able to voice yet. And it really made me feel like quantity is good. Quantity will lead to quality, and yeah, you can just make lots and lots of art. And I think personally, I've often found like I need to spend hours and hours or days, weeks, months on art, otherwise it isn't valid. And that's a real kind of negative self-talk that I have inside my brain. And having someone who I trust and admire give me permission like this, that's huge to me, and it really hits home. So that, for me, is probably like that's the main reason I love this book. And it's like, you know, if this book was nothing except for this, you know, it would have been worth it for me. But it is so much more than that. So I was also looking through the projects in this book, and I really love this one, making a custom junk journal. I've made my own junk journals before, out of like mailers, but I love what Caylee does, and she makes them out of existing book covers, like vintage book covers. And I think I have some lying around, so I might want to do this. So I really like this project. Then what have we got here? Oh, that was a little technique of rolling dice. I like that, like the random element, especially when you're not like feeling inspired. Stitching. I have a sewing machine, but I haven't used it very much, and this is both inspiring and scary at the same time. So I bookmarked that one. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I love it. And because I love it, I am writing it down just to come back to. And at some point I might be in the right mood, might be feeling bold enough to be incorporating that. So here it's a project for mark making and making your own ephemera. I really like the look of this. This addresses a bit of when you don't have time, which, oh my God, can't we all relate to that? I just never have time. And then this bit about having an artist date, that made me think beyond this book and the things in the book. I was thinking, oh, that's giving me an idea for a video. I would love to do like an artist date at a museum, like artist date with myself at a museum, and film the process, you know, so that's a video idea. So really pay attention to the ideas that it sparks. This is just a catalyst for your own art, your own ideas, your own inspiration, and you know, you take from it what you need. There's no good or bad way of reading the book or going through it or using it. So that is what I wanted to say. And then I've got this cute little layout in my planner journal, which makes me very happy as well. So let's move on to the next section. Okay, I have chosen making a custom junk journal as my project that I'm going to do from this book. I've gathered some of my papers that I use for my junk journals. I've got a book. It was pretty much the only book I had to use for this, a vintage book. I made myself some fluorescent pink string to bind it with, and I will show you some inspiring footage, like a montage of me putting this together. Obviously I'm not going to go through it step by step because that is Caylee's proprietary information. Obviously, follow along if you have the book, or look up another tutorial online. And yeah, I can't wait to get into this. I love making junk journals, but I have never made one in an existing book cover before. So I'm pretty excited.
I absolutely loved the idea of binding my own junk journal inside an existing book cover. I make junk journals from old Amazon mailers, but this project felt like it had a lot more class than that. It's a reusing and repurposing of something pretty and vintage and giving it a new life, and then afterwards you can fill it with your own meaningful art and expression. Caylee explains a method where you can create templates for the spine and the pages that don't require any measuring, which was absolute music to my ears. When things feel too overwhelming or complicated, especially with something that I've not done before, it's easy to give in to that overwhelm and then not even start. So this kind of quote-unquote messy approach really works for me. I couldn't quite figure out how to create the spine template, but I eyeballed it and it turned out fine. I put together 2 signatures from the usual papers that I have saved up to make junk journals with. These are things like paper shopping bags, envelopes, leaflets, book pages, and other things. Basically anything that is vaguely paper-like and sturdy enough goes into my stash. I love creating my signatures with differently sized paper. It's one of my favorite anti-perfection methods. That way I don't get stuck into trying to make everything the same size and perfect, and it also makes the journal much more fun to work in. The binding required a fair bit of patience and determination. I was familiar with some book binding before, but only a simple pamphlet stitch. I also show that one in my junk journal course that I've made myself. This binding tutorial required something a bit more complex, which I admit I did struggle with a little bit. My hot tip, if you're going to do this too, is to read very carefully, read every sentence 3 times at least. That did the trick for me. Make sure you understand the direction of the needle before inserting it. Make sure you don't skip any sentences while reading. I did that and I had to unthread part of the binding once I realized my mistake. Very annoying. And also, very important, to tighten the thread as you go. I didn't tighten as I went, and I had to tighten everything afterwards, which was very confusing and time consuming. Nothing like doing something wrong for discovering and learning how to do it right, though. I think mistakes is how we learn, painful as they are.
Okay, look how fun. I am so pleased with this. I have bound stuff before, but never with a complex stitching like this. It was quite challenging, but I just followed the instructions to the letter, and it worked out. And I'm just very excited about this Caylee journal. If you haven't noticed yet, I am a complete Caylee Grey fangirl. This video is not sponsored. I am just really, I really like her, and I really like what she does, what she puts out into the world. Yeah, I hope you agree. So now what I want to do is I want to take some of that inspiration that I got from going through the book and the notes that I made in my little planner journal. I want to take some of these things and just start putting some color on these pages, and it will all be kind of like an ode to the style of Caylee Grey, but my own interpretation of it. So that's kind of what I encourage you to do as well. So when you are following somebody else's tutorials or whatever, always put yourself into it as well, because it's much more satisfying.
When I start a new junk journal, I always like to treat the whole journal to a kind of initiation session. This helps me to connect with the journal and think of it as a whole rather than separate pages. I'll usually add some paint and mark making to pages, which has the added benefit that when I come back to the journal for a future art making session, I won't be greeted by a bunch of pristine empty pages. In this session, I let myself be inspired by the visuals from the Get Messy book, the notes I took, and some of the staple things that I associate with Caylee. These are neon pink paint, stitching, modeling paste applied through a stencil, and mint green paint. I didn't narrow it down beyond that because I wanted to keep it loose and feel inspired to do my own thing, rather than feel like I was somehow making Caylee's art or emulating her style. I also just want to say that the things that I picked up on, like the neon paint and the stitching, they were things that kind of already spoke to me. Like, let's say if I was reading a book by someone whose who I'd be learning from, but their style was nothing like my own, and all the things that they worked with just didn't really fit my personality, I would feel totally free to skip all of those things. It's like you just pick and choose the things that you like, and you discard the things that you don't. Also, just a note, I didn't have modeling paste, but some heavy body acrylic seemed to do the trick fine, so that was good. During this page decoration session, I'm not setting out to create fully fledged art journal spreads or finished pages. It's just an opportunity to play, connect with myself, and connect with my new journal. When I get really into it, it feels great, like a real timeless feeling. Depending on what needs drying, I will hop from one thing to another thing, or I just use my heat tool. The main strategy is that I keep moving, keep myself from questioning or second-guessing my choices, and I also stick to quite a limited number of supplies. It requires less thinking and also lends a cohesiveness to all these base layers.
I am so happy how this is shaping up. I'm just so excited about this junk journal. I can't wait to just fill it with my own art. It's been great trying on some of the styles and ideas in this book. And right now, kind of like in summary, I want to just like sum up what I really like about this book, and I guess finish off with my favorite quote. So I was actually writing on a post-it note. Where is it? There it is. And here. The thing I love most about this book is actually the first bit of it. It isn't so much the projects. I have loads of ideas. I don't necessarily need projects to do, but what I love is the way that Caylee writes and the way that she is talking to you. She has this really positive vibe. She has a very kind of no-nonsense, down-to-earth and realistic way of talking. She's super encouraging, but she's also acknowledging the struggle that people might have, like, you know, wanting to keep buying art supplies, or feeling like you haven't got time, or like, you know, just finding certain things difficult. And so she addresses the concept of like creating your own art practice. And I love how she is talking in terms of something that you can build yourself. She isn't saying, oh, do it my way, do this, this, and this, and then it's great. She is like giving you the tools and the building blocks to figure it out for yourself. And I love that. I feel like that's a sign of a great teacher. And it's what I try to do in my teaching as well, like give people building blocks, give you the building blocks that you need, rather than just say, okay, copy me and then you're good kind of thing. So I really love that. And then that thing that she says about working in quantity to move towards quality. Like, don't sweat the quality. Everybody is going to make crappy art, and you just got to move through your crappy art. And also, I guess, not judge whether what you are making right now is crappy or good. You know, just make it. Just show up. And then we'll, you know, whatever happens, happens. So I guess my final message and takeaway is do the work, embrace the messy middle, and focus on quantity. Those are my 3 takeaways from Get Messy Art by Caylee Grey. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like this video and this type of video, because obviously this is a new thing, I haven't done anything like this before, let me know. I have a few more of these types of video in the pipeline that I want to film, also focusing on popular mixed media and art journaling books that are kind of out there and that I know loads of you will have. So let me know if that's something that you like. Give this video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And, you know, let me know in the comments. Do you have this book? Have you done any other projects? Did you follow along with this video? I want to know everything. So please leave me a comment below and let me know how you got on, what your thoughts are. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.